Hello, welcome to Sky Sweaty Record Review, episode 70. The only new music first listen review show hosted by a French professor immediately after getting back from the gym. So today's episode is one of my battles. And if you're not familiar with the show, I do battles for no reason. There's not really any competition between the groups that I'm studying. Basically, I only review things that are less than a week old. And this has been a huge week. There's tons of albums that came out. At least one that I want to review that I'm not going to get to. So I thought, why not group these two together? A reason is that they are both rock and roll bands or rock and roll adjacent bands fronted by female lead singers. Is that a good reason to compare them? Not really. Am I going to declare a winner? No. I'm just going to compare them. But I like to use the word battle because it gets all the clicks, all those 10 clicks I get. So anyways, I'm going to be comparing Cherry Glazerr and Jealous of the Birds. First off, we'll start with Cherry Glazerr. I say that because the name has two R's at the end. I suppose this might be a reference to like Riot Girls. This is a very stylistically consistent album, very guitar driven, very Stratocaster driven. That's the guitar that the lead singer has on the front cover of the album. That's why I put it there. And it's, I enjoyed it. It's weird because it's like, probably the best genre to call it would be grunge. And it's hard for me as a child of the 90s to really accept that grunge is like punk. Like it just can exist and be remade and it's not stuck in a particular time period. Grunge is like rock and roll or hip hop or punk, just a forever genre. So it's funny listening to new, young grunge. And my son was wearing a Nirvana shirt this morning, so I don't think it's going away. I'll take it sort of not track by track, but I'll just highlight a few. The first track I think will be my stamp of the album, the one that I use to illustrate the album, and I think is quite good. It's called Ohio. And when you listen to it in the beginning, the first thing I thought of was finally a great Weezer song. The best of the year. I reviewed Weezer last week. Great pounding guitars, nice little lead lines, soft, quiet dynamics. The main difference is that the singer is fairly obscured. And throughout this album, the singer Clementine Greevy, something like that. The lead singer often is kind of hidden, or her words are sort of, I guess ironically, glazed over with the guitar. So you can't quite make out what she's saying. Even like the second song, Daddy, which has a little bit different production. It has like electronic drums. The lyrics do sort of pop out because they're like kind of weird and sexual and about her father or not entirely clear. I think it's mostly about authority and rejecting male authority or not accepting it. In that case, the lyrics do come out, but they're still not entirely clear. And I think that's kind of a great holdover from grunge itself. The song Wasted None is another great song. This case, it gets a little bit more like Breeders-y, has that kind of heavy, fuzzy guitars laid over. Ultimately, I found myself by the end of this album getting a little bit tired. So, there's 10 tracks. By the 8th or 9th track, they start off with this talented singer who writes mostly good lyrics, the ones I could understand, but always in this really high register. And I got a little tired of it. A saving grace is that they go one extra mile when it comes to their production. So every song has at least one little extra thing that makes it better. As like a good example, in the song That's Not Real Life, which is actually, I like this album a fair amount. I like that song too. They bring in some like keyboard leads that are really nice and you don't hear other places in the album. Or a song like Pieces. They just throw in some different style production with a little bit more like just a little bit stronger, more forceful production, I guess you could put it. And that's echoed as well in a song like Stupid Fish, which has the clearest lyrics, where she says, I hate you because you remind me of me, or something like that. Which she repeats over and over again, and it has that nice kind of earnest feeling that you have with grunge. Part of what I like about grunge lyrics is they vacillate between earnestness and irony, and this does that really well, where you're really not quite clear which side it is whenever she's singing. Which is a perfect segue into Jealous of the Birds and their album, what's it called? Wisdom Teeth. Wisdom Tooth? Wisdom Teeth. So this is an entirely earnest album. I mean, super earnest. You can hear every single word that this lead singer says. She's apparently from Ireland. I guess Cherry Glazer's from LA. I don't know why I'm comparing them. I just am. Her vocals are very clear. They get really kind of pretentious. Like, there's a song and in the middle there's a breakdown where she compares Mozart to the Beatles. And she talks about the spark of the divine, unironically. And she talks about her craft, unironically. At some point she sings about dancing upon the tiles of a Turkish, I don't know, bath or something. She talks about dancing upon. She talks about pods of belugas. Like, I'm not joking. She's not pulling back any vocabulary. And I like it, you know. That earnestness is done well on this album. It's quite different than Cherry Glazerr. The instrumentation's a lot softer, a lot more acoustics. A really nice song I like is called Blue Eyes, which has the most interesting musical choices. It's a lot more rocky, so I'm going to include that as the stamp on this album, the one to compare, because it's the closest comparison. Has these interesting sort of atonal, ascending, descending guitar lines with a highly lamentable funk bass break, but I don't know. In general, this album is filled with nice moments. Has, in a similar way to a Cherry Glazerr, it's really well produced, where just when you think the songs are sort of hitting a kind of flat spot, they'll add something interesting. Like, there's a really smooth part in a song called Kosi Kleklu. I don't really know how to say it. Lots of nice, random, good guitar work added in. And interestingly, there's a song called Clementina, and the singer of Cherry Glazerr's name is Clementine. Maybe that's a reason to compare them. There's no real reason to compare them, but I'm going to anyways. In conclusion, I believe that on first listen, I much preferred Cherry Glazerr, but I think that Jealous of the Birds is the kind of thing where you could listen to it and get really into it. Like, you can kind of forgive the pretentiousness and enjoy the artfulness of her lyrics, because they are artful. You just have to forgive somebody for using words like a pun, you know, like in rock lyrics. I get the sense probably with Glazerr, over time, I'd get a little bit more tired of the sameness towards the end of the album. Further comparisons, I think you could say this is kind of a high school album versus a college album. So Cherry Glazerr has a lot of that kind of grungy teenage angst to it, you know, like what's going on with my daddy and questions like that. And the guitar itself, it's sort of like a high school kid, like who wears her hair over her face. And I would say that the Jealous of the Birds is more like a college junior who has like a really short kind of like defiant haircut and is really into whatever they're studying and just went abroad and wants to come back and tell you about it. Neither of those are good, neither of those are bad. I think they're both interesting ways of thinking about, you know, producing music and making lyrics. As far as comparisons go, the way that I felt was Cherry Glazerr left me feeling an echo of how I felt listening to the Breeders, and Jealous of the Birds gave an echo of how I felt listening to Fiona Apple. That earnestness and lack of fear towards pretentiousness. So there's my battle. The winner is us, the human beings who get to live in a time where we have such amazing access to new music made by people who I've never heard of, who I may never hear of again, who may become really famous, but there's still good things out there. So until the next episode, where I think I'm going to review Beirut, because I think I like them, but I don't know. We will see that on the next episode. Until then, there's the camera.